a lot lately that people's eating habits are thrown off by the uncertainty of the times. If your body happens to be experiencing the hormonal shift that comes with perimenopause on top of that, it could explain why you've recently experienced changes in your weight like never before. Hi, I'm Sally Bartlett, also known as the Dean of Varsity Menopause. Many of my clients and friends tell me they experienced changes in their shape with shifting hormone levels. For some of them, their food choices hadn't really changed, yet the size and shape of their bodies said otherwise. This awareness freaked them out in many cases, causing them to choose non-nutritious foods more often than usual, which of course compounded the issue. For some of you, you may never have had a weight issue in your entire life, and you may get through menopause without issue. But still, you want to eat for maximum health as you enter menopause, because after all, menopause is the gateway to aging. For others of you, you may have never had a weight issue in your life until menopause. So although we've all come from slightly different perspectives, we all agree that we strive to eat in a way that allows our body to function at its best, that allows ease of movement, full, pain-free range of motion in your joints, and the ability to do what makes your heart sing. I've found a plan that accomplishes that. When I entered perimenopause, my healthy yet imperfect food choices and portion sizes hadn't changed materially in years, yet suddenly my clothes weren't fitting as they once had. So what did I do? It may be different than you think. I call the way I eat, eating in balance for varsity midlife. There are 3 parts to eating in balance. Number 1, plan and prep food ahead. Number 2, anticipate imperfection, redirect thinking and grow. Number 3, increase emotional literacy or EQ by journaling. So let's dive a little deeper. Number 1, plan and prepare food ahead. Yes, I plan my food ahead a lot of the time. Yes, I prep some of my food for the week ahead of time. And yes, I enjoy a plant-based plan of eating about 80% of the time. Now that's what I'd call extreme self-care. Doing that takes a considerable amount of time and effort. I'm willing to do that extreme self-care because of what's in it for me. Planning and batching my food and plant-based eating allows me to live my big, amazing life in a body that moves and functions at its best. Would I rather just eat with wild abandon whatever and whenever I want? Of course, but I wouldn't feel as good or move as well as I do now if I did that. Doesn't food planning and prepping take extra time? Of course, but I'm worth that extreme self-care. You are too. That's a small price to pay for how good I feel. I've mentioned before, I consider myself a former volume eater, like whole cakes, whole pies, whole loaves of bread, whole sticks of butter. Yes, I just said that. For the last 30 years though, I'd say I plan and prep self-loving foods and portion sizes about 80% of the time. Here are 2 actions I recommend. First, keeping good tasting and at least somewhat nutritious snacks readily available. And 2, prepping food in bulk and pre-portioning it in individual baggies for freezing ahead whenever possible. Here's my little baggies. Here's an example of some foods I've pre-bagged. And yes, like I said, that takes extra work. But nothing beats that feeling of knowing there's something special in that fridge waiting for me that won't leave me with a food hangover when I finish eating it. All right, number 2, anticipate imperfection. Redirect thinking and grow instead of staying stuck. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It would be unrealistic to expect that of yourself. Whenever I veer off from my intended food choice on any given snack or meal, instead of dwelling on it, I get to the root cause of my spontaneous eating. That stops the behavior and allows me to get on with my big, amazing life. Here's an example. As I said, I eat plant-based about 80% of the time. So what does the other 20% of my eating look like? Well, yesterday I added spontaneous Cheez-Its and a little chocolate ice cream with peanut butter ribbons to my planned plant-based menu for the day. No guilt, no shame. They were delicious, but it didn't quite hit the spot. so I began alternately opening the fridge, opening the pantry, contemplating what I could eat next. Then it occurred to me, I might be emotionally eating. Here's where some people may launch into a full-blown self-beating session, criticizing themselves about their food choices, mentally swearing off junk food, banning all processed foods, quitting sugar forever. You get the idea. Vowing to eat clean or good, which leads to negative self-talk about their body, which often then segues into general self-criticism about any number of things. Do you ever do that? I used to live there 24/7. That's why I developed my Eating in Balance for Midlife plan that directs that destructive cycle of spontaneous eating and negative self-talk into a positive channel for emotional healing and healthier midlife eating overall, so you can stay focused on your big, amazing life. Here's the third part. Number 3, increase your emotional literacy, also known as EQ, by journaling. Most of us know about IQ, but how much do you know about EQ? Are you emotionally literate? Do you know how to identify feelings when they arise? Do you know how to feel them? Do you know how to communicate them to people in your life? These skills are collectively known as emotional regulation. Research shows that mental health issues stem from emotional regulation disorders. So, knowing how to feel your feelings in a healthy, normal, and appropriate way is super important to your aging journey. With that in mind, consider the possibility that when you make non-nutritious food choices, it could simply be a sign you're feeling uncomfortable feelings. So, in my case yesterday, I took some time to sit down and journal. My favorite way to identify, express, and move through feelings. A simple journaling exercise enabled me to identify my anxiety about the recent vacillating social distancing pandemic parameters. After journaling, I meditated for a few moments to focus on my breath, and that calmed me down somewhat. My desire to continue eating spontaneously vanished, and I went on with my day. Rather than wasting my time being self-critical about food choices or my body or whatever, fill in the blank, I find that journaling gets to the why of my non-nutritious food choices. Have you tried journaling? It's a powerful tool. So I'm going to assume the goal for all of us is to consume foods that support our body for optimal, pain-free range of motion and function, right? Having said that, journaling techniques enable me to make self-loving food choices more of the time in the real world while navigating real life situations and real feelings. Plus, studies have shown journal writing helps improve emotional intelligence, which is always a good thing. I find there's an intricate interrelationship between my food choices, my emotional sobriety, and how I care for my body. Do you notice that's the case for you? How much valuable time do you spend criticizing your food choices and your body rather than actually looking at the causes for what may be emotional eating? Could you be perpetuating a negative cycle that has outlived its usefulness for you? Remember, the definition of insanity is repeating the same behavior and expecting a different result. Are you ready to try something new? If so, try Eating in Balance for Varsity Midlife. So let's review. Number 1, plan and prep food ahead. Number 2, anticipate imperfection, redirect thinking, and grow. And number 3, increase emotional literacy by journaling. I think we all want our bodies to function at their best. We want ease of movement, full pain-free range of motion in our joints, and the ability to do what makes our heart sing. Eating in Balance will help you achieve that functional body and prepare you to enter the gateway to aging in the best shape of your life, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. Maybe if you've never quite gotten around to loving that body you live in, now is the time. Now more than ever. They say menopause is the gateway to aging. Don't you want to live your second chapter beyond your wildest dreams? Try these simple steps and see if your eating becomes a little more balanced and you feel better. I'd love to hear from you. You got this.